The message came at dawn, crackling through the emergency receiver Elias had finally managed to repair. The static-filled transmission was brief but clear. The Meridian High Council had enacted the Genesis Protocol, their final desperate measure to preserve their dwindling species. Thalia stood motionless as the details emerged. All viable females of the warrior caste were being recalled to the central chambers for mandatory participation in experimental genetic procedures. The few remaining scientists believed they had developed a process to stabilize Meridian DNA using synthesized compounds. "They're forcing compliance," she said, her voice hollow as the transmission ended. "Those who resist will be sedated and used regardless of consent." Elias watched her patterns shift through colors he now recognized as distress and anger. "You have to make a decision," he said quietly. "Your leg has healed enough for travel." "Yes," she agreed, moving to the small viewport that overlooked the ravaged landscape. "But perhaps not the decision they expect." The silence that followed was heavy with implication. They had spent nearly 2 months in this outpost, their unlikely alliance evolving into something neither had words to properly define. What had begun as an act of compassion had transformed into a bond that defied the conflict raging beyond their walls. "The Genesis Protocol will fail," Thalia finally said, turning to face him. "Our scientists are brilliant, but they pursue solutions within parameters too narrowly defined by our genetic pride." Her patterns rippled with determination. "I have observed something they have not." "Which is?" Elias asked. "You," she said simply. "Your species adapts through diversity rather than designed perfection. Your emotions, what we once considered weaknesses, drive innovations our logic cannot conceive." She approached him with deliberate steps. "And your DNA contains something our own has lost." Elias felt the weight of her gaze, all 4 eyes focused on him with an intensity that made his breath catch. "You're suggesting interspecies compatibility was deemed impossible by our geneticists," she continued. "Yet our cellular structures have responded to each other in ways that defy their calculations." She placed her hand over her abdomen in a gesture unmistakable across species. "The Nexus Guard females are the last hope for our warrior lineage. I am being recalled not as a commander but as genetic material." Her patterns shifted to colors Elias had come to associate with resolution. "I would rather choose my own path, one that might truly save my people rather than merely postpone their extinction." Elias took a step forward, closing the distance between them. "Are you certain this is even possible? Our biologies are so different." "Not as different as we were led to believe," Thalia replied. "Our encounters have proven that. And I have analyzed our cellular compatibility using your equipment. There is possibility." The implications were staggering, not just for them personally, but potentially for both their species. A genetic bridge where both sides had seen only insurmountable differences. "This goes beyond us," Elias said, his voice low. "If it worked, if it were even possible, it would change everything," Thalia finished. "The justification for this war, the future of both our kinds." She moved closer still, taking his hands in hers. The familiar current of their bioelectric connection flowed between them, but now charged with new purpose. Her patterns glowed with colors Elias had never seen before, rippling gold and deep violet, that seemed to pulse in time with her dual heartbeats. "My people face extinction through pride," she said. "Yours through conflict. Perhaps the answer lies in what we create together." Her hands moved to her abdomen once more, the gesture now an invitation rather than merely a statement. "Make me the mother of your line, Elias, not for duty or protocol, but for hope." As night fell over Viridia once more, 2 beings from worlds that had known only enmity embarked on a journey neither could have imagined when fate first brought them together in the ruins of a forgotten outpost. The neutral territories beyond the Cerulean Ridge had once been mining outposts, abandoned when the war began. Now, 3 months after their escape from the heart of the conflict, Elias and Thalia had transformed one of these forgotten stations into something resembling a home. Morning light filtered through the modified viewport, casting prismatic patterns across the floor as Elias returned from his daily perimeter check. He found Thalia in what had become their shared space, her attention focused on the holographic display, showing the results of her latest self-administered medical scan. "Everything still stable?" he asked, setting down his pack. Thalia looked up, her patterns shifting to the warm amber hues that Elias had come to recognize as contentment. "Beyond stable," she replied. "The cellular integration is proceeding at an unprecedented rate." She gestured to the display where a small form was clearly visible, neither fully human nor fully meridian, but something gloriously unique. "Our child adapts and evolves even as we observe." Elias moved behind her, placing his hand gently on her shoulder. The miracle of their situation still struck him daily, the medical impossibility that had somehow become reality. Thalia's body had not only accepted genetic material that should have been incompatible, but had begun a synthesis that her people's scientists had declared theoretically impossible. "We received another transmission from Kira," Elias said, referring to the human xenobiologist who had been the only person from either side willing to risk communication with them. "The news is spreading, both among your people and mine. The Meridian Genetic Council has formally requested access to our research data." "And your military command?" Thalia asked, her secondary eyes narrowing slightly. "Still officially denouncing our desertion," he replied with a wry smile. "But unofficially, there are elements pushing for a research coalition. The prospect of ending the genetic degradation affecting the Meridians has made some people reconsider the value of cooperation over conflict." Thalia rose, moving to the window that overlooked the valley below. Her pregnancy had altered her typically warrior-sleek silhouette, but she moved with the same inherent grace. "They will come for us eventually," she observed. "Both sides. Our child represents too significant a breakthrough to be left unexamined." "Let them come," Elias said, joining her at the viewport. "On our terms, what we've discovered doesn't belong to either military. It belongs to both our peoples." The past months had brought other changes beyond the physical. Thalia's patterns now displayed emotional ranges that would have scandalized her former Nexus Guard compatriots, vibrant expressions of feeling that she no longer attempted to suppress. Elias, meanwhile, had developed a sensitivity to bioelectric fields that human physiology shouldn't have been capable of detecting. They were changing each other, just as their child represented change on a more profound level. "I received a message from Commander Vost," Thalia said after a moment. "My former second-in-command. She seeks permission to visit, alone and unofficially." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Do you trust her?" "Once with my life," Thalia replied. "Now, I believe she comes out of genuine concern and curiosity." Her patterns shifted to thoughtful blue. "She represents others within the Nexus Guard, who question the Council's decisions. If we could show her what we've discovered, another ally could make a difference," Elias agreed, "especially one from the warrior caste." As evening approached, they sat together on the observation platform they had constructed on the outpost's roof. Below them stretched a landscape still bearing the scars of conflict, but also showing the first signs of natural healing, native vegetation reclaiming ground once scorched by weapons fire. "I used to dream of glorious battles," Thalia said softly, her hand resting on her growing abdomen, "of dying with honor for the preservation of my kind." She turned to Elias, her patterns glowing with emotions no Meridian had been permitted to express for generations. "Now I dream of peace, of watching our child grow in a world where they are seen not as an aberration, but as a bridge." Elias covered her hand with his own, feeling the now familiar current of their connection, strengthened rather than diminished by the months together. "From engineer to deserter to potential diplomat," he mused, "not the career path I envisioned. And I never imagined finding salvation in what we were taught was inferior," Thalia replied. "Yet here we are, creating life where both our peoples saw only endings."